Joining us about 20 minutes into the next hour is one of the other leading questioners of official thought, and that is David Icke from the UK. David, you can't fly to Canada. You can't fly to Australia because you write books about a world government coming. But now the Pope announces world government. Now they openly announce they want war with Russia. Everything David Icke's basically been writing about is now unfolding. So they've got a problem, David. I guess now they just need to shut us up. You've been doing this 20-plus years. I've been doing it 20 years. You longer than I. I mean, wow. It is really happening. You said 2016 would be all hell break loose. You wrote that 10 years ago. But you said that would be the beginning of the end of their system. Do you still stand by that? Because, I mean, I certainly hope you're right. It's the beginning of the end. You've been proven right in your predictions. I just hope your latter predictions are right as well, David Icke.
Well, Alex, you'll have to forgive me. First of all, I'm not feeling too good because I'm suffering from oppositional defiant disorder. Apparently it's catching. And we are facing, I would suggest, 3 years that will decide which way this goes. I think 2016, 2017, and 2018 are going to be pivotal years in deciding where this world goes. Because if we allow the system to go on, the agenda to go on unchecked, then by the end of 2018, 2019, we're going to be looking at something that's going to be very difficult to turn around. But if we start to awaken, and the great news, Alex, is that in greater and greater numbers, people are beginning to reassess the world and reassess themselves and reassess life. And what's giving me tremendous encouragement is where these people are coming from. They're coming from within the system now. That's my personal experience anyway. They're people who would never have questioned anything before. And then suddenly they're looking at it, and concepts that would have been totally alien to them a very short time ago are now starting to make sense. And, you know, I said many years ago, there's going to come a time when this agenda is going to have to break the surface. For people would not believe how long this has been going on. This is not a modern thing. This has been going on generation after generation after generation, as the ground has been prepared for this global fascist Orwellian state. And in that period, it's been able to stay under the radar. It's been able to manipulate in the shadows. It's been able to get things ready to be played out in the public arena. But of course, if you are going to actually make your world happen, then at some point you have got to start playing those things out from the shadows into the public arena where we can see them. And that's where we are now. Now, that shows that the agenda has moved on, but there's another aspect to this. This is a very, very dangerous time for the agenda and those behind it, because they can't hide anymore. It's in your face, and it's impacting on people's lives. And what we need to do in this alternative independent arena is to redouble our efforts to present to the widest possible audience another narrative, another explanation of world events, which challenge the random presentation of it's all random events, and show how it all fits together. Show how 9/11 and what's happening in Syria, gun control laws and mass immigration out of the Middle East into Europe is all connected. They're all dominoes in the same line. And when people take the trouble to read or listen to this narrative, as I know from personal experience, it makes far more sense of the world than that it's all a random accident and and
David, it goes further than that now.
It's happening by chance.
It goes further, as you know. Brzezinski writes books. Kissinger writes books. The White House Science Czar writes books. The head of the Kissinger Group writes books. They write books and admit, okay, there are too many of you. Okay, we are putting stuff in the water. Okay, we are going to merge with machines and become gods. You know, okay, we are trying to create black holes and play God at CERN. I mean, what's crazy is they've gone from denying it, where I've had the host of, you know, ABC News here and Nightline, and I show him 6 or 7 clips of world leaders calling for world government just 5 years ago. And he looks at me and he goes, that's a different world government than the one you're talking about. To now they go, yes, world government's here. It's run by private banks, but still you're a kook and you're bad. And you need to be arrested. I mean, it's so bizarre to see how many people are awakening, including world leaders and people and very prominent folks and people in the system. As you said, that's what I'm seeing. In the system of all places, but then the general public, large swaths, like get off on it and want to join with it, even though it hurts them. It's like they're nihilistic and are in a trance, like lemmings running off a cliff. It's quite a paradox.
Well, you know, I've just got a new book that's just come out. It's called Phantom Self, and the subtitle is "And How to Find the Real One." And what I show there is the scale of programming, perception programming, that starts when you leave the womb. So by the time you get into the adult world, if you have not opened your mind to see beyond the norms you've been programmed to accept as reality, then the only fix, the only way that you can understand the world is on the basis of the perception programming that you've, well, it's literally downloaded. And so if you come out of the womb, you are then influenced by parents, not parents overwhelmingly that do it from a malevolent point of view. They have been programmed by going through the same system I'm just going to quickly describe, and thus they have taken on these perceptions of reality. And they then pass them on to the young child. And now, of course, at an earlier and earlier age, the state is getting control of children from the earlier and earlier ages. I mean, we've got a guy in the education establishment in Britain who a year or so ago called for children to start school at 2. So immediately you come out of the womb, you have a short time, overwhelming with parents that are passing on the programming because that's what they've taken on, and then you hit the system. Suddenly, as a small child, you are sitting in a chair in a classroom, and an authority figure is telling you what's right, what's wrong, what's real, what's not real, when you can go to the toilet, when you have to be there, when you can go home. Schools, I mean, it's like I say, take a deep breath, take a step back, look at it again. Schools are prisons for children, but they're worse than that. They are programming centers and prisons for children.
And if you go further back and look at it, at least before, you might have different teachers, different ideas in school, but the new systems are dumbing them down. Physically, the IQ's going down, not just the education. They're openly scrambling the education, 2 + 2 = 5, to literally fry their brains. And it's not even different teachers now. It's globally UNESCO-approved UN curricula under treaty worldwide in over 90% of the schools on the planet, literally teaching them how to be mental midget, conformist morons who are never conscious and will accept whatever the new contradictory download is.
Exactly. Well, Bill Gates is involved in that in America, and anything Bill Gates is in is the agenda. You look at everything that he's involved in. It's like a wish list for the agenda that he's funding through his foundation with his missus. But this education foundation of the program is so vital because you go on to college and you go on to university, or many people do, and then from that base programming, this is the world, this is reality, this is how it is. And I debated, Alex, many times at Oxford University. And this is the elite university in Britain. And I've not been asked a challenging question. The level of programming is extraordinary. And then what happens? From that base programming, people go out to be doctors, they go out to be scientists, they go out to be politicians, they go out to be journalists. And from that base programming, they're all coming, unless they become in any way conscious beyond the program, they are viewing the world the same way. So where do the mainstream media go to get a fix on reality when they actually bother to question it at all? They go to scientists. So what are the systems scientists? They go to the systems doctors when they want to talk about health. And anyone who's outside of that program sense of everything, medicine, science, politics, economics, they are by definition a kook because they are outside the norm. This is how it works. And it's extraordinary, the level of programming. And I would say this, I've said it before in the books, you know, I think there's a very good chance that the level of programming is such, the level of perception program is such, that vast numbers of people, possibly the vast majority, go through an entire lifetime without an original thought or emotional response that hasn't come from the program. And if people just ask themselves the question, what do I believe? And then ask the next question, why do I believe it? Where has it come from? And it will invariably have come from some aspect or some expression of the system. And like the Nazis said, you know, give me the child to the age of 7 and I'll show you the man. Well, they have control of young people now well beyond the age of 7. And as you rightly say, what we're seeing is, because, you know, I'm coming up 64, so I was born in 1952. I remember the education system as it was in the 50s. And I've seen it change. This is why our generations are so pivotal in what's happening, because we have a point of reference before this got really, really extreme. And thus we can see how extreme it is.
Everything normal, everything natural is supposedly evil because you're right. We're all in a giant prison. We're being forced into the physical matrix with the virtual reality helmets we're going to put on. And the Pentagon admits that's the plan. So why would insiders, David, who know where this really leads, want to be for this? Because they're promised they're going to be part of the power structure in the future?
Well, there's a few things I'd like to say about what you just said. I think it's there's some points there to go with. But in terms of what you just asked, there is a major incentive for such people in the sense of being frightened not to go with it. You know, if you've seen consequences for others of not going with something, then if your backbone is not made of steel, then you will go with something merely out of self-preservation. And then there's the other incentive that if you go with it, there are rewards for that. And
the clash of civilizations is happening to the point Louis Farrakhan, the tape's coming out, we're going to put it out very soon, interviewed him 2 days ago, said we have to block people coming in from the Middle East because we know they're bringing terrorists in on purpose to bring in martial law. I mean, that's a fact. They took over Syria. They brought in the terrorists. And then now they're going to bring them here to demonize everybody and take everybody's freedoms. I mean, it's a really sophisticated problem and reaction solution situation. But David, it's here. Like you said, the shoe is dropping. You've got the floor. Please continue with your point you were getting into, how they are going to try to demonize folks, how they're going to reward others that play ball. But again, it's an evil spider, a monster, as you've said, at the center of the web. You can't make a deal with this, can you, David Icke?
Well, no, and you know, it's simple. What is happening? You are seeking to bring in a centralized global fascist, communist, whatever you like, to people living in those situations. They're the same, really. Orwellian global state in which you have 24/7 surveillance and your freedoms are basically zero. Now, to bring that in, you can't just come out and say, okay, we've had a meeting, this is what we're going to do. You have to create in the public mind the reasons why you're doing it. And because those reasons are not genuine, you have to make them up. In other words, you are bringing in your global fascist system by lying and lying and lying. Now, that's one side of it. But of course, what lies are very vulnerable to say the least, is the truth. So you've got a double whammy. You've got two fronts. One is to lie to the public so that you have your excuses to bring in your global system. And two, you've got to shut up those that are speaking the truth and thus exposing the lie. And that's what we're seeing. That's why, I mean, and this is an important point. Where does the real power lie? It lies with the truth. It doesn't lie with the lies. You can see behind me how big this room is. This is my little office where I do all my work and have done so for 10, 12 years, turning out the books and all the rest of it. And I'm currently sitting 13,000 miles away from the Australian government. One bloke. And yet they are seeking to delay a speaking visa, where I'm supposed to speak in a number of Australian cities in July, because they fear the information that I'm going to circulate. And Australia, I mean, there was an Australian politician said in Parliament, or a video I saw this week, he is saying Australia is in a pre-police state situation. I would take the pre away if you look at what's happening in Australia with a situation. So another take a breath, take a step back, look at it again, in which people are being denied benefits from the government if they don't have their children vaccinated according to the government's vaccination schedule. Now, if anyone wants a definition of a tyranny, then give me one better than that. But what they don't want, because that's the lie, that's bringing in the system, they don't want the truth to challenge the lie. And the fact that they are frightened of me coming into their country and just talking at about 3-4 events, when I'm just one bloke, just shows the power of information. And I'm looking at that headline now. This is a point that I want to pick up from what you were talking about earlier. The number of people at the center of this global web who are doing this in full knowledge and awareness of what they're doing is very, very small. And they have to manipulate other people to play out their desires, their agenda, called government administrators and politicians and others. They have to manipulate people in uniform to impose their agenda once the laws have been passed by others. And they have to keep people in the dark of what is actually going on. And to do that, given there's 7 billion people in the world, you have to enlist, through manipulation and programming, large numbers of those people to police each other. An analogy I used many years ago is that people laugh at sheep because they run from the sheepdog and follow the one in front. But humanity in large numbers has out-sheeped the sheep. At least the sheep need a sheepdog to keep them in line. Humans keep each other in line. And of course, that is the whole foundation of what's called political correctness, which is the insane seeking to silence the intelligence.
Absolutely.
Intelligent, in my view.
And they're moving on every front. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And it's getting more and more extreme. When I read what's happening in United States universities, it's extraordinary. But what they're doing is recruiting the slaves to enslave the slaves. And this is what political correctness is. You start out here and you have debate. You have different views. You have people having access to different views and different information and having the right, oh my goodness me, they'll call the police, to make a decision on that information. And then political correctness is squeezing it in league with other situations until what's left is only the official version of everything, which is the lie. And what's amazing is that people who would otherwise say, oh, yeah, freedom of speech, when someone says something they don't like, instead of saying, well, actually, I think that's wrong because, the response is always ban them, silence them. And anyone who says that, and there's many on the left who say that, of course, all the time, don't tell me you are in favor of a free society. Don't tell me you believe in freedom, because you are a key part of the tyranny. Without people like you, the few in the background who are running the tyranny couldn't play the tyranny out. Wake up before you, in the end, become a victim of the tyranny, and so do your children and grandchildren.
Well, David, that's absolutely right. And again, places like MSNBC and Salon now openly say, arrest Alex Jones, shut him up. They go, it's great that the IRS is harassing the Tea Party and Christian groups and veterans groups and auditing them. They're evil racists. They deserve to be shut down. They're not racist, but even if they were, they're on TV saying, let's persecute people, when they would have crucified Richard Nixon for doing 1/1000th of it. They're so totalitarian, but they call themselves liberal. And that's what I'm saying. We saw great tyranny move forward under the Republicans and Bush, but now under Obama, even liberal constitutional lawyers like Jonathan Turley say it's about triple what Bush did because he can get away with so much more. And again, we knew there was a clash of civilizations. You spoke about PNAC day one. I spoke about it even before 9/11, the clash of civilizations. But it doesn't mean it isn't real once they start it. And they're bringing in radical Wahhabist Sunnis backed by Saudi Arabia, who they allow to colonize the Middle East and Africa. They're now colonizing here. And we're told by the left now, in fact, a German mayor in the Green Party, after 35 women were raped in public, it translates in German to, they shouldn't dress like that, and it's their fault they got raped. And this is a big feminist liberal. So now feminists say Western men, where women were empowered, the best place in the world historically for women, that's bad. But radical Islam, sexual mutilation, Wahhabist cult garbage is allied with sickening, weird feminists who are now basically saying women of Germany are like hors d'oeuvres on the table for all these military-age men pouring in with fake passports. They're letting planes come into the U.S. No one is checked. That's CBS News, New York Daily News. I mean, even leftist publications are reporting that they don't even check the ID. But when I fly back into the U.S., they pull me in a room and interrogate me and tear through everything I've got for political reasons. I mean, it's so clear.
Well, it might be a good point to get into this whole situation with migration into Europe, and also get back to this perception that I'm presenting of the program. You see, people's beliefs in a world of programming are usually programs. Many years ago now, back in the 1990s, I was in the old city of Jerusalem, next to the big mosque, and I was watching some Muslim kids play football. And the old city of Jerusalem is a very small area, but it's broken up into 4 quarters. There's a Christian quarter, a Muslim quarter, a Jewish quarter, and an Armenian quarter. And I was looking around at these different people, and it occurred to me, the truth, that each of them in this small area called the Old City of Jerusalem had been born into one of these quarters. And by the age of these kids, 7, 8, were playing football, they would have a certain view of the world, a certain view of themselves, a certain view of what they call God, a certain view of spirituality, a certain view of themselves. Had those same kids been born in the Christian quarter or the Jewish quarter, they would at the same age have downloaded a different program and thus would have had a different view of all the things that I've just listed. And what we need to do is realize that we are being, and I say this to every belief, I say this to every religion, I say this to every color and creed. If you put your belief first, and the need for your belief to prevail first, then you are setting yourself up and your children up to be played off against other beliefs that put their beliefs first and think their beliefs must prevail first. And you are played against each other in a massive divide and rule.